Hey guys, welcome back to Salem the Crafting MMO, and in this video we're continuing on from our agriculture sort of theme here from the last video, and this time we're going to be talking about gardening. And as you can see, I've got a nice lovely row of some gardening pots with various things growing in them, and we're going to be having a look at how to do this because it's not quite as straightforward as you might think. So, first of all, let's look at the skills we need for gardening. So here's our skills menu here, and the first one you're going to need, of course, is the one that's actually called gardening. There we go, gardening. It needs herbs and sprouts and stalks and cultivars. It's a very early skill, and this sort of thing will sort of allow you to start making pots and some basic herb gardening, but you're going to need a few other things to actually get to it. And also, in terms of gardening, there's a few things you can garden. So if you want to garden other things, you can have a look at, let's see, we've got, we'll need floriculture. If you want to plant flowers, you'll need fungiculture if you want to plant mushrooms, and you're gonna need vegetable potting if you want to plant vegetables. So there's actually 4 skills there so far, and you're actually gonna need one more, which is kiln construction, because to actually make these gardening pots, you're gonna have to have a kiln, which I've got one back there, to actually fire the pots so they actually can be used, because lumps of clay don't really make very good pots, do they? So how do we actually get all of these skills? Well, basically getting the gardening skills is the hardest, and there's even some higher level skills. So for example, we've got horticulture here, which requires 2,450 herbs and sprouts. Horticulture will mean that the time it takes for a potted plant to reach maturity is decreased, and there's one more, which I'm not sure if it's listed here. I don't actually have it. Green thumb. This one takes 9,100 herbs and sprouts. So green thumb is a super high level skill, but it drastically reduces the time it takes for plants to ripen. So I don't have green thumb right now, but I do have horticulture, so that's good. So to the main inspirational you're gonna need to get this is a flower arrangement. So let me go over and grab some stuff and show you what it takes to make a flower arrangement. Alright, so here we go. I've got some interesting items here in my inventory. I've got a devil's wort, a lily pad bulb, a wild garlic, and 2 ferns. And that's going to go and allow us to craft a flower arrangement. So I'm going to go to craft inspirationals, collections, and potpourri. And just here you'll see flower arrangement. And you can see it takes that. The devil's wort is a little trickier to find, but generally you can find the devil's wort and wild garlic in most grassy areas. Heading north of Providence should get you that. The ferns are in pine forest, so it's sort of like the blackish sort of pine tree forest. You'll find lots of ferns there, and lily pad bulbs are in shallow water. You should be able to find a couple of those. And the nice thing about flower arrangements is, let's go ahead and craft this one here. So there we go, crafting a flower arrangement, and these flower arrangements are pretty high in herbs and sprouts, stalks and cultivars, sugar and spice, even natural philosophy and arts and crafts. So these are sort of all the requirements needed for getting all of our gardening skills. So for example, if I look at, let's see, let me get the floriculture out. It's arts and crafts, flora and fauna, herbs and sprouts. Same with fungiculture, flora and fauna, herbs and sprouts, perennial philosophy. That one takes a little bit more on another one, but the flower arrangement is sort of the nicest thing, because not only that, a flower arrangement, if you can see, there's a little 3 next to it, which means each time you craft this, you get 3 uses out of this. So crafting 2 or 3 flower arrangements will get you most of the skills that you need. So after that, we need to look at the structures we need. Okay, so here's the first thing that you need to build. This thing, a clay trough. So what do you do with this? Well, this is going to allow you to create, actually create clay by using milk of lime and washing dirt in it. So to construct a clay trough, you go to build, and it's under tools and utilities, and there we go, clay trough here. And if we have a look at what's required to build it, it requires 10 boards and 1 nail. Again, nails expensive if you buy them from the standard shop. Try buy it from other players, you'll get it much cheaper. But worst case scenario, they cost I think 30 silver, which is quite expensive actually. Players will usually sell it to you for 10 or 15, about half the price. So once you build a clay trough, you're gonna need some lime. Now you can occasionally find lime lying around, but what you need to find is a lime deposit. And so what I've done here is I found a lime deposit, I dug up a boulder, and I carried it back to my base. So I'm gonna head over to a lime deposit right now and show you how you can do this. Alright, here we are at a lime deposit, and it just sort of looks like this white stuff right here on the ground. You can see it on the map pretty clearly. And what you can do with this is, first of all, I'm going to unequip my axe and equip my shovel so we can actually start digging this up. And I'm going to click on Adventure, Dig, and I'm going to dig up on this white stuff on the ground here. And you're going to start seeing me dig here, and it takes a little while. And there we go, halfway there. Keep on digging, just dig that stuff up, and we will end up with this. I'm now carrying this sort of boulder of lime on me, and you walk pretty slowly with this, but it's good if your base is near one of these things, or actually your base is on top of one of these things. But worst case, go walk over to one, dig up this boulder, and then you can just go ahead and dump it down in your base, and you're gonna get something like that. And we can go ahead and chip stones from it. So now I'm gonna head back to my base and show you my boulder of lime, and then I'll show you chipping stones, and we can get on to making some clay. Alright, so once you bring a boulder of lime back to your place, I'm not too sure why mine is so much bigger than that other one, but never mind. It works pretty much the same. You gotta chip stones off of it. So if I go ahead and chip stone here, it says you need an axe or pickaxe to chip stone. So again, let's bring up our menus here. I'm gonna de-equip the shovel and equip my axe back on. And now we can go ahead and chip stones. And there we go. We're gonna chip some stone up off of this lime, and it's gonna give us, there we go, a unit of lime. So let's stop that. We've got a unit of lime now. And now what do we need to do? Well, we need to go, we actually need a bucket for the next step. So if you go to craft and you go to tools, and it should be under, okay, it's under bags, sacks, and vessels here. And you can see bucket. And bucket again takes one board and one nail. So again, you need one more nails here. So that's 2 set of nails so far. And you can craft a bucket. Now a bucket, you need to go fill up with water. So you basically just bring the bucket over to any body of water, any shallow water. You pick up the bucket and you right click on the water and you'll fill it up. So let me just go ahead and show you that now. Alright, here we are near some water. So currently my bucket has 5 liters of water in it. So I'm gonna left click the bucket and just right click on the shallow part of the water here. And now I've got 10 liters of water in this bucket. So what do we do with this bucket of water? Well, we don't need just water, we need milk of lime. So what do? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and take one of these lime things which I've chipped off the stone, and I'm gonna right click onto the bucket. And that's going to change the contents of the bucket to 10 liters of milk of lime. And this is the stuff that we actually go ahead and put inside of our clay trough. So let's head back to our base and put some of this into our clay trough, and then we can start actually producing clay. Alright, here we are back at our base. Remember to close your gates. And I'm going to walk over to the clay trough here. And there we go. So I'm now gonna pick up the bucket, left click, and I'm gonna right click onto this container here. And there we go. Now the bucket is empty, and our clay trough, if we right click on it, it says 10 liters of milk of lime. So now what do we have to do? Well, we gotta go ahead and dig up some dirt. So I'm gonna step out of my base here, and I'm just gonna make sure, keep your gates closed. I'm gonna step a little bit away because I don't wanna ruin the terrain near my base. So I'm just gonna go over to here. You can see I've been digging up some dirt here already. So I'm gonna equip my shovel here. Take off my axe, put on my shovel, and I'm gonna go to Adventure and Dig. And I'm just gonna go ahead and dig a whole bunch of dirt. Now, every time you see the land go down and the bit of dirt go on your head there, well, every time you see the land go down, it's essentially 1 unit of dirt. So I've got 2 there so far. Gonna go for another one, that's 3. Gonna go for 1 more. That's 4. And gonna go for another. That's 5. And I'm gonna go for 1 more up to 6 here. You should actually go up to 8 for a gardening pot, but I already have some clay in my inventory. So generally you need 8 units of dirt here. So I'm gonna head back to my base now, just gonna step back in. and head back to the clay trough. Remember to close your gates. And there we go. We just right-click on this, and we start washing the dirt, and it starts turning into clay in our inventory. Now this is, we do need a lot of this to get started. But there we go. I got 6 units of clay because I dug up 6 units of dirt. I had 3 clay on me, so I now have 9 units. And you need a lot of this because the next step is you're going to have to build a kiln. So this kiln over here, there we go, there's a better angle of it. This kiln over here, if I go to build and tools and utilities, actually no, it's under buildings and structures, kiln. And if you place this down, you see it needs 30 units of clay. So that's a lot of clay to go through. So 30 units of clay if you want to build a kiln, but it doesn't require anything else. But now that you can produce clay, you just got to dig it up and wash it in the milk of lime. You probably have to get another bucket of milk of lime to get that much clay. But the next thing you got to do is you got to craft a gardening pot. So I'm going to go to craft, and it's under tools, pots and pans, and there's gardening pot. And this one takes a couple things. First, it takes 8 units of clay. We've got that. We need 1 bit of lime, which if you have a boulder, go ahead and chip as much as you like. And then you need 1 bit of granite. Now granite you can find in the more arid, deserty areas. If you go back to the main city of Providence, you can find it sort of to the south, just past the player stalls by the beach, and sort of wrapping around from the actual city center, there's an arid land. And if you travel further south, there's another bit of arid land. So you can find granite there. Alright, so once you've created an unburnt gardening pot, you gotta fire it in the kiln. So here's the first thing you gotta do with the kiln over here. You first gotta go to craft and let's see, under tools, miscellaneous, craft yourself a tinder drill. So once you get a tinder drill, then you're gonna be able to set fire to things. So this, oh, I accidentally just used some yellow stained cotton as tinder instead of these leaves. Never mind. Then you gotta fill the kiln with branches. So I'm just gonna shift click some branches into this kiln here. There we go. And then I'm gonna left click the tinder drill and right click on the kiln, and it'll start lighting a fire. So there we go, lighting a fire here. It works just like a fireplace. So there we go. Now we got some interesting colored smoke coming out of the kiln. So I'm gonna right click the kiln, gonna take the unburnt gardening pot and place it into the kiln, which is then gonna burn into actual proper gardening pot, which then once it's ready, you just left click it and it'll actually put it on top of your head and not into your inventory, and you gotta place it down like you're lifting up a basket or something. So here's an empty gardening pot that I have right now, and to prep it, you just have to do 2 things. I went back to the river and filled my bucket with water, so now I'm gonna left click the bucket of water, right click on the gardening pot, so you can see there's some water down there in the pot, and then I've got to put some humus in it. So I'm gonna take this, and I'm just gonna take 1 bit of humus and also right click on the gardening pot, and then your pot is ready for planting. And you can plant all sorts of things, vegetables, mushrooms, flowers. I'm gonna go ahead and plant this witch's hat because I don't find these enough, so I'm gonna go ahead and right click the witch's hat onto that, and there you go, the witch's hat is now growing. So you basically just have to wait. It does take a couple days, but you can see some of these plants over here. You can see there's 2 of them. It's because every time you plant these things, after a few days it becomes 2, and you can pick or inspect. And you'll get 2 units, so then you can of course plant 1 back in. Now, as a last point of gardening, I talked about a bit of purity stuff back in the agricultural video, where I talked about raising your purities through selective breeding of seeds. And you can kind of do that, but purity for gardening takes a few things. First of all, there's the purity of the humus you're putting in, purity of the pot itself, and then the purity of the plant. So I got these like 13% red bell peppers. And it's important to raise the purity of food because it actually makes them more effective. It heals you more, and it works better in gluttony mode. But the big purity thing I'm going to introduce here is purity of humus. So you can see here I have a 4% earthworm python. And the way you get that is actually to take one of these worms, common earthworms or earthworm pythons, but earthworm pythons are more effective. And then you need to go ahead and, for example, open up a container, open up a container and actually put the earthworm python in there next to some food with higher purity. So for example, I could feed these red bell peppers. If I just, for example, put these red bell peppers next to this earthworm python, then after a couple hours, the earthworm python would actually eat the red bell pepper, and 10% of the purity from the bell pepper will go into the python. So I have this 4% earthworm python because I fed it a 40% piece of food. And then when it actually comes to these compost bins, you can see there's worm efficiency here. Well, that shows the effectiveness of these worms. So for example, I have 52% here because a common earthworm only gives 4% efficiency, whereas an earthworm python gives, let me just show you here. If I take these worms out, an earthworm python is 16% compared to the 4% of a common earthworm. So you can fill all of these worms in, and then the effectiveness, the efficiency here, is how much percentage of your average purity will go into your humus. So currently it was at 52% efficiency, and only one of my earthworm pythons had 4% purity on it. So if you actually look closely at this humus, 0.52 ether is being put into these humus. So you can see transferring the purity up the food chain can take a long time. But basically the idea is you start to raise the purity of your crops, which you then use to raise the purity of your earthworm pythons, raising the purity of your humus, which raises the purity of the plants in these gardening pots. And that's sort of how it works there. Alright, so that basically wraps up the basics of what you need to know with gardening at this point. If you'd like to support the channel and the game itself, then go ahead and check the referral link in the description box below. You know how a referral link works. Alright, that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.